There's our pal Jabberwock. It takes a bit to find these guys, man. Alright, so Jabberwock is a pretty fun little enemy in terms of the way they're designed. So, right off the bat, when the fight starts, they basically set a... They have a global variable that they use that's basically just randomly set from 1 to 2. It's just 1 or 2, right, basically. And that global variable basically dictates kind of how they act throughout the fight. I guess it can also be 0. Wait, can it be? Or is that a different thing? Yeah, because I'm kind of just going by the seat of my pants here. They're a bit of a funny little guy, because I'm sure you can tell just from the fight, but they spam, float status, but they can also, use their anti-float status spell, and then they alternate between, like, earthquaking you and, like, using Era on you. I should not have done this so early in the morning, holy moly. There is a lot to these guys. Alright, well, first of all, let's smack one and then smack the other and see how they react. There's the heavy. Meow. Damn, they heavied her ass. Miss. I do think it's funny that the animation will show them floating into the air, but then they can just miss. Oh god damn it, Aiko! No, I'm super speeding past this. Stop with your trance shenanigans. So you can see, not only do they attack often, but they can also counter with their light and heavy spells depending on what they're feeling, basically. I believe that the way it works is that each one will focus on a random thing. So for example, it looks like one of them wants us to be on the ground and one of them wants us to be in the air. So I think if I have Aiko attack, or a dagger attack the one that's air based. Let's see if it counters with Era now. No, it counters with heavy, so that one maybe wants to be heavy? Let's see. If I smack it, what does he do? I should probably heal them soon too, because they're gonna die. Oh, he didn't even counter. You can see though that this tends to start happening, where they get stuck into this loop of putting you up and down and up and down, and can make them kind of goofy, because they spend more of the fight just like doing this instead of actually anything like useful, I guess you could say. Oh, that's funny. They can counter white magic. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, so it looks like this light one is going to counter every time that someone who isn't floating attacks it. But if someone who is floating attacks it, then it's not going to do anything. But the other guy will counter if you're floating and make you heavy. And this guy will use Era. Because I believe that the floating one will spam Era and the ground one will spam Earthquake. I believe that's how that works. That's more or less how it works. So let's have, say, Vivi and Dagger smack the ground one now. Or I guess the floating one. See, when you're floating, they don't react. But now if I Cura, I bet you the ground one's gonna try to heavier, right? Yeah. I will also point out, I'm thinking about maybe I should have brought Quina with me because these guys can actually cast Limit Glove too, by the way. Just to like, in case, just in case you just fucking around with them too much. If you put them down to 1 HP, they'll just nuke you, which is very funny. But yeah, basically, at the start of the fight, each one will focus on, like, a different... I don't know if it's necessarily right. Like, I think I want to say maybe each one tries to focus on a different one, because according to the thing, it's just part of their initial little script that runs. I want to say that each one can focus on the same element, but I actually don't know. Oh wow, we got Vivi Trance, now jeez. To be fair, I'm not that surprised that I'm getting a lot of Trance, because they kind of just... The Earthquake one gets a lot of Trance gauge build up in there, because he's just using Earthquake. You can see too that when, applicable, they always counter. There's no like RNG there. It's just if you're, attacking me with the status I don't like, I'm gonna get rid of it. That's basically the way to think of it. You can see though that the floating one that casts Era tends to spend, like, he's only used Era like once, whereas the Earthquake one's, attacked a couple times. You can see the difference there. Alright, so this one's the Earthquake one. I'm gonna kill this one. Because I don't remember, but I'm curious about how they're affected when they're, like, alone. So I just see here now, only with this guy alive, and he's the float one. He wants to float us and spam Era. I might have to... There's the other Era. Can you use it on Titan? Yeah. So they tend to... Obviously, this is a big reason why, is because the Era one will mostly attack characters that are already floating. Like if I look at their ATB, when they check to use Era, they only set it on target that's considered an Era target. But they queue it up. That's a big thing. They have an Earthquake and an Era queued, so... They will use it on someone who has float, but if someone stops floating before they get a chance to use it, they may not necessarily just immediately quit using it, if that makes sense. They have a bit of a buffer. Hey look, we can also show off Return Magic with Era. I think I'm gonna... Yeah, we're gonna do a second one of these. I'm gonna come back to the Jabberwocks. I'm gonna bring Quina with me so I can show off their Limit Glove attack and maybe see if we can get some different reactions out of them. So, I'll be right back. There we go. Man, it took me forever to find these guys again. It's so rare. Alright, so I have a better understanding of how these guys work just from looking at them. So, what I was saying in the last time we fought these guys is pretty much the case. So basically when the fight starts, they have a global variable that gets like set from a random thing for each of them. And, it's not for each of them, it's a global variable. So it's just one variable for like the start of the fight. And basically one of them will like they'll both use the variable, but basically one of them will be light and one of them will be heavy, and that's just how it goes. So they can't both be the same element. Which one is which is random, but it'll always be one of them makes you heavy in earthquakes, and one of them makes you light and hits you with the era. And like that's how it works basically. One of them will focus on that and they'll use their attacks. The part that did confuse me was the Q attack. So basically, in order to make it so that they attack you a little bit more often than they otherwise might, might just spend the entire fight doing nothing, which they still kind of do, but they do have a Q function where basically, like, the next attack can be queued up to be an earthquake or an era, so that even if say, for example, the heavy one's trying to use Earthquake and everyone starts floating, he may still use Earthquake, which, funny enough, for the Earthquake guy, that can sometimes result in using Earthquake when everyone is floating. But it's more useful for the Arrow one, who only can single target, right? So he will queue up an attack sometimes, and even if the person he's queued his attack up on stops floating, he'll still use Era on them, basically. That's more or less how this fight works. And of course, they'll counter with, respective things. I'm trying to look here. I see. Okay. So the funny thing with these two guys is that if you attack them when you're, like I was saying, right? If you attack the floating one, or I guess the ground one when you're floating, he'll put you down on the ground, and vice versa for the other one. What's interesting is they do have functions to counter with Era and Earthquake, but they seem a little weird. Like, so the funny thing is that the let me see here. Earth Wind Switch equals 1. The Earth Wind Switch 1 being 1 will make him attack with Earthquake. So it looks like... So, in order to account for auto status... God, I might have to find them again to show this off. If you have auto float on, then the one that tries to ground you, I believe, will instead cast Era on you as a counter. I'm not sure if both of them do this. I might have to... I'm gonna have to find them again now, aren't I? At the very least, let's get the Mantra magic going. So I can show that off at least. Might take a couple tries, you know how it is, it's pretty inaccurate. There we go. First try. If he's at 1 HP, he may or may not, it may take him a couple tries because it's still, like you can see, because he already has his attack queued up. There's Limit Glove. So yeah, if you ever, for some reason, feel like using Mantra Magic on them, they'll just kill you. Because they're not too fond of Mantra Magic, I guess. I think it's kind of funny that they have several monsters set up like this, specifically trying to punish you for... I guess, like, the idea is if you try to cheese them with Mantra Magic to eat them easily, then they just, like, kill your ass, I guess. Like, it's funny to me. Like, it's still viable, it's just, they're gonna make you a little punished. They're gonna make you have to work for it a little bit, Now, unfortunately, this means I actually have to come back here one more time, because I want to come back here with some of my characters having auto float on them. So, I will be right back. God dang it. Finally, okay. So I've got Dagger here. She's got auto float. I also gave it on Zidane, but so obviously when you have auto float on, these guys are the arrow one is a lot more easily made to attack you because they'll always attack someone who has float. And the earthquake one can always attack if someone's on the ground. So if we have a character with float status attack the one who normally puts you on the ground, I believe he uses Era? Or does he just not care at all? I guess so. So that's how that works. So if the ground one will just straight up not try. He just doesn't try at all. He will still try to cast Heavy though, which is maybe a bit of a flaw, but I believe if you try to attack the one that floats you, he'll actually use Era on you automatically. No, it doesn't look like it. They do have, like they can counter with Era and Earthquake. It's in their script. I'm just not sure how to make it happen. Let's, I don't know, let me try mugging them with Zidane a couple times then. Because when they check to use Heavy on you, right? They actually check if you have auto status. Oh, wait. Yeah, they check if you have auto float on. Oh, no, they actually do check both. Okay. Okay, that's where I was getting this. I was getting off about this. So it looks like only their counter checks if you have auto float on. Okay, that's interesting. So they will still use Heavy and float on characters who are otherwise, like, if it's redundant, but they won't counter. So I guess they won't waste your time with counters, I guess, which is kind of funny to think about. Let's see here. I don't mind spending a lot of time with these guys. These guys are, like, at the end of the day, these guys are pretty fun. Like, they aren't particularly lethal. It's just the fact that they're doing all this weird float and heavy stuff is very funny, I think. Definitely one of, like, the more fun encounters in that regard. But, yeah, it looks like... it does look like... they don't... like, I don't know, I'm not sure what causes them to do that. That's my question, is... like, if you look at the... like, you can look at this both in Hades Workshop and on the wiki. Their counter checks for someone who... look this up. TMP target. Honestly, I don't know how it works. At the end of the day, I cannot tell you how this actually works. There's a couple of things in here I still am not 100% sure about with this game. There are some odd variables at play. Because there are some things they do, like Era and Earthquake are in their counter list, but I'm not sure how to make them use it. Basically, I guess that's what I'll say to that. Who knows? I thought it was that they would check for auto status and basically bully you for daring to have auto float on, but it does not look like they. In fact, it actually looks like it just saves time. Because they won't waste time heavying you if you're auto float. It's possible, maybe, like I said earlier, that maybe it's when they're alone. But I'm not sure which one being alone does that, is the thing. I guess I'll kill the light one, or the heavy one, I guess. And then I'll get different characters to attack him, basically. We'll see how he reacts to this. So if Aiko attacks him, he'll make her float. I don't think he'll. I guess we'll see how he responds to Dagger. He didn't react to her at all. Maybe the earthquake one will, but you know, at that point, it's like I have no idea. That's time for you to figure out on your own, I guess. If you actually, you know, care about these wacky guys. I mean, I do love their design. Like, I love how these weird, like, he's kind of a quadruped, but also he has arms. Like, he has 4 legs and 2 arms, so he's kind of a mix of a quadruped and a biped. They also have that sweet mohawk. And they're carrying a book around, which I wonder if the reason they're carrying the book around, because like they're called Jabberwocks, which is I believe a reference to Alice in Wonderland? I'm not sure if Jabberwock come from anything else before that, but there's like a Jabberwock poem, right? And maybe that's why they're carrying a book around, like I don't know. They've got like a little blue vest on and like their little like, I'm not even sure what that is, like the cloth at the back and that kind of raises up because they're, you know, pardon my language, but their butt raises pretty high up, you know, they got a big ass. So, you know, they're packing a lot of heat in the back. And their legs are also like, they kind of look like their front legs look normal, but their back legs look like they bend like the opposite way, like birds do, basically. Like, there's quite a lot of design intricacies here. Like, I don't, how would you put it? Like, a lot of like design decisions taken from like different concepts, I guess. There's a lot that goes into this guy. They even have like the hair on their arms that kind of almost looks like feathers as well. It's a pretty cool design for an enemy you barely ever get to see because they're so rare, and also just like such a funny monster to fight to begin with. Really appreciate these guys.